News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now in the KVNU studios on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon as we're enjoying sunny, clear skies outside the KVNU studios. I'm Will Fiore with a check of our top stories. Well, residents who may spot smoke and flames coming from Logan Cache Airport this week shouldn't be alarmed as first responders are conducting routine live fire training exercises. Now, the Logan Fire Department is reporting that the aircraft rescue and firefighter training started today, weather permitting, and will continue through Friday morning. Now, officials say that the exercises will utilize the airport's training prop for scheduled live burns. Now, those controlled burns are generally taking place through the afternoon through Friday, but there will also be a night one coming up tomorrow night from 8 to 10. Now, fire officials are reminding the public that the resulting smoke and flames are a part of the planned exercise to maintain emergency readiness and safety, and there's no actual emergency. And you do not need to call 911 to report it. Meanwhile, a senior leader of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is cautioning global tech experts and scholars to ensure artificial intelligence is guided by a moral compass. Now, speaking at a summit in Athens, Greece yesterday, Elder Garrett W. Gong of the church's Quorum of the 12 Apostles warned against what he called a winner-takes-all race for AI dominance, which he says risks untethering the technology from basic human dignity and morality. Now, while acknowledging the immense power and potential of AI to create positive opportunities, Elder Gong also emphasized that power alone does not make the technology inherently good. And he called on developers and leaders to anchor AI in the ethical and philosophical traditions that have guided human civilization for millennia. Now, Elder Gong said that we will not fulfill AI's full potential until we make it as morally good as we make it powerful, adding that humans, not technology, must take responsibility for changing the future. And as rising costs continue to strain household budgets, more Americans are turning to buy now, pay later loans to cover everyday expenses like groceries. Now, according to the Federal Reserve, the use of these short-term loans has jumped about 20% annually just over the last 5 years. Now, while the services allow shoppers to split purchases into interest-free installments, financial experts are sounding the alarm. Recent data from LendingTree shows that nearly half of users have missed at least one payment. Now, financial educator Thomas Nitschel says that an increasing number of people are using the loans for food. And he points out a major risk is that consumers often need to buy groceries again before they even finish paying off their previous grocery loan. Now, additionally, some major lenders are now reporting missed payments to credit bureaus, meaning falling behind on these quick loans can damage your credit score. Experts are urging shoppers to budget carefully and avoid becoming overextended. Well, it's been a gorgeous afternoon as temperatures have been in the mid-80s today, and we're going to continue to see this temperature just repeat itself as we head into tomorrow with mostly clear skies expected overnight tonight as temperatures are going to once again dip into the low 50s. Tomorrow we'll be back into the mid-80s with mostly clear skies, and eventually we'll start to see some clouds coming in on Friday. That's going to bring a chance of some isolated showers, thunderstorms Friday afternoon and into Saturday. And weather this hour brought to you by Valley Recycling. They want to help protect the environment and give you some cash for your recyclables. You can take in your metal, copper, aluminum, steel, old cars, or old appliances into Valley Recycling at 145 North, 10th West in Logan and get cash on the spot. It's Valley Recycling. And KVNU News Time is now 4:09, and it's time for KVNU's For the People Show with Jason Williams coming up next here on KVNU.
This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance, and we are now Alera Group. This is great news for you. Now you have more choices and strength of a top national broker in your corner with our local personal service. Every situation is unique. Now we can tailor coverages from deductibles and limits to risk management, so it fits you even better. Let's compare options and tighten your program. Same friendly faces, same local office. Call 435-752-0101.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
Looking for that hidden gem? Ready to turn your stuff into someone else's treasure? Don't miss Cache Valley's biggest garage sale, coming to the Eccles Ice Center parking lot Saturday, June 6th from 8 to 3. Sponsored by DD Auto and Salvage. Booths, food trucks, free kids zone with inflatable fun, and garage sale deals you have to see to believe. From power tools to patio sets, vinyl records to vintage clothing. For details, go to CacheValleyGarageSale.com. Sponsored by DD Auto and Salvage. Always the most for your junk car and metal.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM. Online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Wednesday, May 27th. I'm Jason Williams. Thank you for tuning in. 80 degrees outside here at 4:11 in the afternoon. It's nice. A little warm. Starting to think about air conditioning about a month earlier than we usually need to. But, well, enjoy, I guess. I got some photos from traveling friends from out of state who'd come through on their way up to Yellowstone, trying to beat the seasonal rush that usually starts, well, actually, I'd say they're about a week late on beating that, but they sent me some photos as they went through the Garden City Bear Lake area, and those beaches are already, it looks like July on the beaches there in Bear Lake. The warm weather just kicking summer in before spring on the calendar is even over. So it is what it is. We're going to be talking about the effects of this really warm weather for months now. Very unseasonably warm, starting roughly in January of this year. And then, of course, some late season freezes or some unexpected freezes that came actually at a time when they usually do, but it had been so warm, it has affected fruit growers, produce growers. Governor Cox has issued 2 states of emergency, actually. Governor Cox today said that 22 of Utah's 29 counties are currently in a extreme drought condition, which is just one level down from I think the top level is serious, or no, sorry, they're in serious drought. The top level in the Utah government's ranking is extreme drought. But he has issued an executive order emergency declaration, which allows certain state funds to be opened up. And how those will be spent, we're still waiting for details on that. But a few weeks ago here on the show, we talked about this. Governor had issued another executive order emergency declaration due to those unexpected freezes. We had a couple of nights, a couple of times over, where we got down into the 20s after it had been, 35, 40 degrees at nights for weeks. So a lot of those budding fruit trees had budded. It's estimated at this point, according to the Utah Department of Ag and Food in a report today, that about 45% of crops were affected adversely by those freezes. And that's going to mean possibly at least higher produce prices for locally grown produce. But I guess more alarming for those who depend on them, it is going to mean maybe a little less this year. So possibly in some areas up to half, nearly half of their seasonal crops have already been lost. So throw drought in on top of that. It could be a pretty slim year. We'll see. But those 2 emergency declarations are in place. Again, it does allow the state to free up some funds that are triggered by the declaration, and how those funds will be spent still remains a question. So that's one of the top stories today. Another top story today, this is one that everyone's kind of been anticipating. The backstory on this audit that was published today from the Lieutenant Governor's office, the Office of Elections, basically, was triggered by what is basically a legal battle at this point between, well, actually 26 states, including Utah and Idaho, and the Trump administration. The request from demand, I think would be a better word, from the administration is that states turn over all of their voter roll information. The details on what will be done with this are slim, and many people in states, from purple states to blue states to very red states, like, again, Utah and Idaho, raised a few eyebrows at this, saying, look, we don't know what you're going to do with the data. This is sensitive information about voters and residents of our state, and we don't believe you have a legal right to this data. The administration challenged that claim, and in many states it's gone to court. And so far, I'll be honest with you, out of the 9 times that this has gone before a court, a judge, or in most cases a panel of judges, the federal government has lost. They're 0 for 9 at this point. So basically the judicial system is saying, this is a states' rights issue. If the states don't want to turn over all this information, they do not have to. It's the job of the states to manage these rolls. ERIC is part of a multi-state program, a couple of them actually, but one of the most prominent is called ERIC. Interestingly enough, Utah was actually part of developing this Keep the Voter Rolls Clean program. ERIC allows states to share information with each other because one of the biggest challenges to keeping voter rolls clean, like having someone on the voter rolls that is no longer actually legally able to vote in the state, is someone moves. And a lot of times someone might be registered in a state, then they move to another state, and then they just never get around to registering in that new state, which would automatically trigger, through the ERIC program, removing them from the rolls in the state where they previously resided, or they never get around to actually just taking care of it on their own to have themselves removed before they leave. Very few people do this. So it's a constant maintenance effort, and this ERIC program allows states to share information from their voter rolls with each other, with, careful, they're being careful with it. They make sure that they aren't sharing, social security numbers or things like that. But it is a good way to keep voter rolls clean when people move. Regular audits are done on our voter rolls here in Utah. I think it's every 2 years. The elections office here in Utah does an audit just to look for people who have passed away. Now, none of this has anything to do with anyone actually voting. If a ballot is sent out to a deceased voter or a voter who has moved, if someone fills that out and sends it in, it's going to be flagged by the election system as it's scanned, and it will not be counted as a vote. And in some cases, that can actually lead to criminal charges if someone did it intentionally. There was a situation 2 years ago where a mom was filling out ballots for her missionary son. She didn't know this was illegal. She wasn't charged or jailed, but she was told she could have been, and she apologized. Our system works very well, but keeping these rolls clean is important and also reduces costs in general, trying to get ready for an election, or in this case, a primary. This specific audit, though, is not part of the regular process. The lieutenant governor requested this audit from independent auditors after the request from the federal government came. The charge by the Trump administration is that non-citizens are voting. States are saying we don't see any evidence of that. What evidence we see is a very small number of people on voter registration rolls, and none of those people actually casting a legitimate ballot. And when they do try to cast a ballot, they are caught. That's what we're seeing. The lieutenant governor wanted to back that up, and so an audit was triggered. The audit started actually in January. It was finalized and reviewed and published today. You can see this. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but here are the end results. 27 total out of it's 2.06 million registered voters in Utah. 27 non-citizens were on the state's voter rolls. Of those 27, none had ever voted in person or by mail. And this now allows the lieutenant governor's office to go contact these people, see if maybe they just hadn't supplied the information to prove they were a citizen. There are several ways you can do that here in Utah. The second is actually an attempt to prosecute anyone who did this on purpose. Obviously, interestingly enough, the highest concentration of people, non-citizens or people who hadn't taken the time. The Lieutenant Governor's office, when talking about this audit, said, that they weren't going to release the information about these 27 individuals because there's a chance that a lot of them, if not all of them, are actually citizens, but they never supplied voter ID when they registered to vote. So they're on the rolls, but there's no proof of citizenship, which is something the state verifies when you provide your voter ID. And so they're going to contact them or attempt to. Anyone who is a non-citizen who registered, that is against the law, and they will contact them, let them know. And if in any situations, any criminal charges are appropriate, Lieutenant Governor's office said they'd be filing those. But you can see the full audit. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. It's also in the news everywhere today. And 27 out of 2.06 million plus registered voters in the state of Utah. The highest concentration of those non-citizens or people who were registered to vote but hadn't provided proof of citizenship were in Utah County. So check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
As America celebrates its 250th birthday, the Cache Valley Media Group asks, why do you love America? We want to hear from you. Call in and record a short message sharing what America means to you, your family, your freedom, or your favorite traditions. We'll be playing select messages on the air all summer long. Join the fun and get complete instructions at CacheValleyDaily.com today. And happy 250th birthday, America.
Are you a country music fan? Rock, pop, hip-hop? The kind of music that gets you moving. If so, you're going to love this year's Cache Valley Cruise In concert, featuring rising country music star Cooper Allen. This guy's energy is off the charts. His music has millions of streams, and when he sings, the whole place feels it. Cooper Allen live with special guest Ingrid Andress. Incredible music and even better live and up close. Ingrid Andress, Cooper Allen, Thursday, July 2nd at this year's Cache Valley Cruise In. And it's shaping up to be an all-American night of music, friends, and fun. And you should be there. Buy your tickets now at the Cache Valley Cruise In website or in-store at Lee's Marketplace. Ingrid Andress, Cooper Allen at this year's Cache Valley Cruise In concert. Buy your tickets today.
Get your cooling fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs. If you're having cooling problems, we're here to get them fixed. Just pick up the phone and call Gary Riggs. 435-512-6633. We'll come to you. Our service fee is low, just $25. We repair all brands and have certified installers. Get your cooling fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs.
Tired of the daily grind? There's an easier way to get around. Connect Transit takes the stress out of your commute. No gas, no parking, no hassle. Just a warm seat and a quiet ride. Connect Transit. This is how we roll. Visit rideconnectutah.gov.
With a little love and some tenderness, we'll walk upon the water, we'll rise above the mist, with a little peace and some harmony.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Special guest joining us here in the studio, and this is a conversation about something that is normally I guess you'd say a behind the scenes kind of thing that most people would not consider themselves affected by, but this is a pretty big move, and it speaks to our ongoing conversation about growth. When we talk about growth, we're usually talking about housing and water and things like that, data centers. That's a lot of the growth conversation these days. But as the population grows, the needs of the valley of northern Utah in general evolve and change with that growth, and that affects everything from roads and schools to the local health department. And joining us here from the Bear River Health Department, we are going to be talking about, I asked them what a good word to use was, because in my head I kept thinking merger and that doesn't fit, and they said integration was a good way to talk about this. It is a significant change that is happening, but it is something that is meant to streamline and make things flow and function a little bit better within the health department here in Cache Valley. And again, this is all meant to prep us for I was going to say coming population boom, but I think we're kind of already there. So if you can, we'll start over here on my right. Introduce yourself to listeners and tell our listeners what role you play, and then we'll get into what this means.
Yeah. Thank you. My name's Jordan Mathis, and I am the director of the Bear River Health Department. And my role is to oversee the health department that covers Cache County, Box Elder County, and Rich County.
That is a significant area.
It is
population-wise. Yeah. But interestingly enough, this Tri-County area, I learned this a lot working with the health department during the pandemic. One of the challenges is you have, super rural. You have, concentrated urban. Then you have super rural again. And that presents a challenge in general for just doing the job, right?
Yeah, for sure. You get economies of scale the more dense the population is when you're looking at population health. And when you start dispersing that, it becomes more challenging. It becomes more costly to deliver those systems or services, whatever you're trying to deliver. So it does create a challenge. And then obviously the distance. So
this is, to say the least, something you're used to, but again, a significant challenge. So
yeah.
Appreciate taking your time out of your day to come and talk to us about this, because I'm sure you've got plenty to do outside of that. So, all right, here on my left.
So I'm Trevor Cook. I'm the CEO for Bear River Mental Health.
And Bear River Mental Health, though it falls under the umbrella of the health department, is a very different beast, right?
Yeah, so we're a private 501c3 company. We've had the mental health contract with the counties and with Medicaid for decades now. And in this process right now, we're integrating substance use into mental health as well.
Oh, wow. That is, again, this kind of goes back to the growing demand, right, for services. This integration, now, if you can, let's walk back a little bit. Where did this idea start?
Well, let me share real quickly. I mean, people may say, you may ask, what's the difference between Bear River Health Department and Bear River Mental Health? Because you have these two agencies, and they both have the words Bear, River, and Health in them. And the reality is it's been confusing for the public for decades.
Sure.
And so what is the difference? Trevor mentioned that one of us is a private not-for-profit 501c3, and where the health department, which is what I direct, is a subcomponent unit of the counties. The three counties came together and said, we have to have a health department. Why don't we all come together and have a department? So the health department is like the roads department of Cache County.
That's a good analogy.
But I serve all three counties. So rather than them having their own department of health, they said, let's come together and create the Bear River Health Department that will serve all three, so that we can kind of, back in the day when it was created in the 70s, populations were more dispersed. And so it was trying to create more economies of scale. We have to have staff to do this. We can do it better if we come together and create this partnership. And so one of us is a government agency. The other one is not. But we partner together towards trying to achieve good health outcomes. And in this case, we're talking about behavioral health outcomes, which is mental health disorders and substance abuse disorders.
Sure. This is, and of course, coordination between Bear River Mental Health and the Bear River Health Department, that isn't new at all, right? There's always been a level of coordination when necessary and when helpful.
Historically, the health department has provided this substance use treatment. And so with mental health and substance use, a lot of times you have co-occurring diagnosis and issues. And so we coordinate between the two agencies as far as we have a mental health client that needs some substance use treatment, and we have, and for them, they have a substance use individual who needs mental health treatment. And so we coordinate that care between the two agencies, which isn't always the best way to coordinate care because you lose people in the transition from one agency to the other.
That makes sense. Okay. Because you are dealing with, sort of a process of treatment, right, that might cross over between Bear River Mental Health, Bear River Health Department, things like that. Can
I give you an example?
Sure, please.
So let's say that an individual has a mental health issue, and they're getting treatment at Bear River Mental Health. And let's say that same individual maybe ends up using substances and gets involved in the criminal justice system and maybe gets their vehicle privileges taken away as a result of it, whether it's a DUI or whatever, right?
Okay.
Now they're getting their substance abuse treated over here at the health department, and they're getting their mental health issue treated over here at Bear River Mental Health. And now they don't even have transportation to go between them.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so if you bring it all under one roof, if that happens to an individual, at least now they're not being separated and having access to care is a big issue.
Sure.
And sometimes transportation is one of those access to care issues. So we're trying to minimize the access to care issues that people could experience. I was just giving that as one example, but
Sure.
People experience all sorts of access to care issues. And so what we're trying to do is trying to eliminate as many of those as we possibly can.
Okay. This is, again, an integration of services and, administrative teams to some extent between Bear River Health Department and Bear River Mental Health. And this is going to facilitate better and more start-to-finish services within the health department and within mental health services here in the Valley. And again, speaks to the way the Valley is growing, the needs are changing, not just the Valley, but northern Utah, the Tri-County area in general. And appreciate both Trevor and Jordan for being here. For our listeners, more to come, what this means as far as services go specifically. And when we come back from the news break, we'll also open it up if you have any questions, 753-5868. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. A civic watchdog group is accusing a state agency of breaking the law to try to fast-track the massive proposed data center in Box Elder County. Now, the Utah Civic Compact claims that the Military Installation Development Authority, or MIDA, violated state code by advancing the 40,000-acre Stratus project without proper legal consent. Now, the group alleges that MIDA signed an agreement with a development team led by television star Kevin O'Leary 10 days before Box Elder County commissioners formally consented to the plan on May 4th. Now, MIDA is strongly pushing back, releasing a statement saying that misinformation is muddying the facts. The agency clarified that its initial April vote did not approve construction, but simply put regulatory tools in place. Now, officials insist the project area approval was explicitly contingent on Box Elder County's legal consent and that no development agreements have been officially signed yet. In other news, Utah Representative Blake Moore says he has secured $6.5 million in the upcoming defense budget to design a new F-35 canopy maintenance facility at Hill Air Force Base. Now, as the military acquires more F-35 fighter jets, specialized canopy repair work is shifting from the manufacturer directly to the Ogden Air Logistics Complex. Now, Hill Air Force Base has already been selected as the sole canopy repair facility for the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, and also several allied nations. Now, the advanced canopies feature ultra-thin radar-deflecting layers that are critical to the jet's stealth capabilities. Current base facilities can handle a small initial production rate, but a much larger building is required to meet rapidly growing demands. Now, Representative Moore says this dedicated facility is urgently needed to prevent costly private outsourcing and avoid maintenance delays. And state officials are urging Utahns to utilize a public database to protect their money from convicted fraudsters. Now, the Utah White-Collar Crime Offender Registry tracks individuals convicted of financial crimes like embezzlement and communications fraud. Now, for one Utah family, the warning, though, comes too late. Kristen Floyd says she was forced to close her construction business and lay off 30 employees after a trusted office manager embezzled over $250,000 using forged checks. Now, the employee pleaded guilty but ultimately served just 92 days in jail. Jessica Smith with the Utah Attorney General's office says that fraudsters often build personal relationships to gain trust, and she urges consumers and business owners to pause and check the database before handing over cash or making key hires. Now, the website is utfraud.com. First-time offenders will remain listed on the database for 10 years. It will help the public identify financial offenders before investing or hiring in them. Well, it's been a gorgeous afternoon as we've enjoyed sunshine with temperatures in the mid-80s today, and tomorrow it's going to be a complete copy of today, pretty much, as we're going to have clear skies overnight, temperatures dropping into the low 50s. Tomorrow we'll be back into the mid-80s with sunny weather continuing. Doesn't look like we're going to see any change in the forecast until likely Friday, when we see some clouds come in. That's going to bring an increased chance of some thunderstorms through the area Friday night and into Saturday, with a little cooler weather to finish off the weekend and finish off the week, that is, and take us into the weekend, as temperatures Friday will be right around the mid-70s, and then Saturday only mid-60s. And weather this hour brought to you by Logan Extermination. Don't let pests or disease kill your trees again this year. Logan Extermination can help with a dormant tree spray to help protect your precious trees. Call and get signed up today at 752-8450. And with your KVNU local headlines, I'm Will Feelright.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. A runoff race in Texas ending the political career of John Cornyn after Ken Paxton, backed by President Trump, won. He takes on Democrat James Tallarico in the midterms. ABC's Jonathan Karl says Texas will also use a new congressional map aimed at favoring Republicans to gain House seats.
Most Republican operatives that I have spoken to say that there's been significant political changes since those maps were drawn up, and that they'll be lucky to get 3 seats, a net 3 positive out of Texas, and it's quite possibly they end up with no net increase in the number of Republican congressmen and women in Texas.
President Trump telling reporters today he's not concerned about the midterms or in a rush to finalize a deal with Iran, saying he wants to make sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. The CDC says it's working to monitor signs for Ebola at key airports in the U.S. where travelers arrive from Central Africa. This is ABC News.
Mild winter? Oh, yeah. Your weeds noticed, too. Now they're popping up everywhere. Landscape beds rock, even your driveway. Oh. Good news? Logan Extermination has you covered with their Killzall service. Starting at just $75 for 1,500 square feet or less, they'll take care of those unwanted weeds fast. Clean it up before it all takes over. Call Logan Extermination today at 435-752-8450. That's 435-752-8450. Online at loganextermination.net, a division of Anderson Seed and Garden.
Bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Hi, this is Brooke with Adams Wealth Advisors. Markets struggled for direction today as conflicting signals from the U.S. and Iran left investors uncertain about the path forward. Major indices finished mostly flat, while sectors rotated sharply and oil prices moved lower. Negotiations between the U.S. and Iran appeared largely unchanged at the highest levels. The core issues remain the reopening of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz, along with ongoing disagreements over nuclear material and Iran's potential control of the strait. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 183 points to 50,644. Meanwhile, the Nasdaq and S&P 500 were little changed, ending the day at 29,974 and 7,520 respectively. Consumer-focused sectors led the market today, with both consumer staples and consumer discretionary posting gains. Energy stocks were the clear laggards, pressured by another drop in oil prices, with crude falling roughly 5% on the day. As markets priced in lower inflation expectations and reduced geopolitical risk, gold prices also moved lower, slipping below the 4,500 mark. The bond market reflected the broader uncertainty, with Treasury yields showing very little movement. The 5-year Treasury yield held steady at 4.18%, while the 10-year yield dipped 1 basis point to 4.48%. Beyond today's market action, attention is beginning to turn towards what could become one of the most significant IPOs in history. SpaceX is reportedly preparing for a public offering later this year that could raise as much as $75 billion, valuing the company at more than $2 trillion. If completed, it would potentially become the largest IPO ever. Following its acquisition of Elon Musk's AI startup xAI, SpaceX is increasingly being viewed as not only a space and satellite company, but also a major AI player. Looking ahead, tomorrow brings new inflation and personal spending data, both of which could play an important role in shaping expectations for interest rates and the broader economy.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
Hey there, we'll get you back to the music soon, but quick question. Does your home ever feel a little off? Like one room feels fine, but the next room is too hot or too cold. You might even feel a draft of air. Well, that's not supposed to happen. And that's where Cardall's insulation comes in. Cardall's uses high-performance injection foam insulation that fills in the cracks and gaps, so you have a home that feels more comfortable in every room. And spring is the perfect time to get it done, before that summer heat shows up and your AC starts working overtime. Call Cardall's Insulation at 755-5012. That's 755-5012.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Here in the studio with us, we have Jordan Mathis from the Bear River Health Department and Trevor Cook from the Bear River Mental Health. Two separate entities, one operating as a government agency that is funded through the state and the county, the other a nonprofit that operates independent of the state and county government, but in coordination with both them and the Bear River Health Department. And what we're talking about today with Jordan and Trevor is a bit of integration that's happening between the two. We've gotten the background on this, where the idea came from, and also, Jordan, I forgot to ask this. This was not a quick thing, right? This wasn't, a couple people were talking one day, hey, we should integrate a bit more to streamline things, maybe save some money, but also make services more effective. And then you just start doing it the next day, right? This took a lot of planning. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I'm new. I hit the wrong buttons.
Yeah, it actually started through an exploration of like the structure and the governance of the health department, and look at that, and it kind of just evolved, and as we were looking at how are we structured, the question is, are we structured appropriately according to state code? But then the secondary question is, are we structured in a way that serves the public well? And the mission of the health department is, or the vision of the health department is, to have healthy people and thriving communities.
Sure.
And in order for us to do that, are we structured in a way that allows us to do that? And as we talked about in the last segment, when we were separating individuals that have mental health issues, they need to go over here, and individuals that have substance use issues, they need to go over here. We're not treating the whole person all too often. And we're trying to silo an individual when they have multiple factors that are causing their issues.
That makes sense.
And so we had to have an honest conversation and say, are we structured the right way? And how does that look in code? So not to get too far into the weeds, we sat down and we said, is this the right way? Trevor's heard me say this a lot. Is this the right way for us to get the best possible health outcomes for our community? Because in the end, that's what I care about. That's what my job is, to care about health outcomes and look at those health outcomes in our community and say, how do we get better health outcomes?
What kind of, I mean, that's a difficult thing. First, you have to decide what the metrics for that determination are going to be, right? So did you look at, the length of service provided, or the costs, or everything? I assume everything, but
we did look at everything. So and I'll tell you the biggest thing. Trevor mentioned that as a private not-for-profit, Bear River Mental Health has been under contract with the counties for decades, right, Trevor?
Right. Yep.
Sure.
And under those contracts, Bear River Mental Health has built infrastructure to be able to provide services.
Sure.
So as a government agency, let's just say, well, let's put the responsibility for substance abuse and mental health services under the health department. Can we actually deliver those services? And the answer is no, I don't have the infrastructure to do that. In order to do that, I'd need more tax dollars from the county.
Okay.
We have infrastructure in a private not-for-profit in Bear River Mental Health that allows for us to be able to have capacity with our community. And so you have to ask the ethical question. Is it more important that the health department deliver the service, or is it more important that the service be delivered in our community?
Okay. Makes sense.
And that's where we got. And a simple math thing that also played out was when we talk about capacity, it wasn't just buildings, it was individual therapists that can actually provide treatment and care for individuals.
Sure.
Bear River Mental Health had about 140 employees doing this work.
Right.
I had 22.
Okay.
If you're going to make the shift and integrate things, which way do you do? You say, let's figure out how to build the capacity that already exists, or do you say, you know what, we're providing great services, but we could actually probably provide better services if we move our resources and support the work that's going on over at Bear River Mental Health?
That makes sense. So you're saying, in a way, kind of saying, let's not reinvent any wheels here, build on what the infrastructure that already exists. And then on your end, Trevor, with Bear River Mental Health, you're saying, okay, we have this infrastructure in place, but to take on more, we're going to need more. And the end result is you say, well, we can integrate a bit and cover both of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're doing is the contracts and the resources that Bear River Health Department used to or is currently utilizing for substance abuse, we're now putting and rolling into a contract with Bear River Mental Health for them to be able to provide those. And the health department is moving to a governance and oversight role of those programs. So the counties have a responsibility to oversee these programs in our community. They said, health department, why don't you take on that role for us? And we said, we'll do that, but we're going to do it through a contract through Bear River Mental Health, who has more resources and infrastructure in our communities. Sure. And in some of our communities, we've been sharing those resources. Like over in Tremont, we already share a building, right?
Oh, sure.
And so that's an easy integration right there.
That's literally just paperwork in Tremont, right?
Yeah. It's
maybe changing a title or two or something like that.
It's literally go to that front desk rather than this front desk. That's what that is.
That's, this is kind of a broader, maybe even more philosophical question, but this also seems to reflect something that we're seeing socially, which is, I think, a really good change, that we're starting to talk and think differently about mental health. It's always been confounding to me that we had for decades these ways of talking and thinking about these two health services. You had health care, and then over here you have mental health, but they're the same thing. And oftentimes achieving a good health outcome in what many people traditionally think of the healthcare environment is impossible without mental health care services. So this to me makes sense to just make it more so, at least, all one thing. We've seen that in the private for-profit healthcare industry a lot as well. So socially, is this kind of reflecting a bit of that social change, that better understanding as well of what mental health services are all about, that they are healthcare?
Yeah, I think some of it goes to that point. I also think one thing to point out is across the state, we are the only 3 counties that didn't have substance use and mental health combined.
Oh, really?
And so Jordan's done a presentation to the county officials, and he called it a bear and a corn, and it's completely accurate. So the rest of the state, all of either whether you're a tri-county area or a couple county or single county, they all provided the mental health and substance use treatment under one roof. We didn't have that in this county, and that's what we're moving to where people can come in and get a service in one building, one location.
Okay.
And that's where the integration is coming from, is through providing that service in one location and under one agency, like the rest of the state has done.
Okay. Does this complicate, from the health department's perspective? Of course, you spend a lot of time talking with the county, talking budgets, and then, of course, the state has to get involved in those conversations a little bit. Does this complicate those conversations, or does it actually maybe streamline those as well?
I actually think it streamlines them a lot. We put in our budget requests to the counties. We're coordinating with Bear River Mental Health on what those budget requests need to be. It used to be that the 2 agencies were kind of coordinating with all 3 counties on budget requests. Now it's everything for health. Like you said, we're not trying to silo the person. We're not trying to take the head off the person and treat it separately and say it's mental health or behavioral health. We're saying everything public health related and health related that the county funds is going to come through this avenue. So it streamlines that. It also streamlines the audits that we receive from a state level for these programs. Before the state's been wanting this for a long time, because they would come out to our community and they would go over to Bear River Mental Health and they would audit them. And then they'd have, like Trevor said, every other place in the state, they went to one agency and said, we're going to audit you on the delivery of services.
But they had to do 2 separate audits.
They had to do 2 separate audits in our communities. So it streamlines a lot of things, and it also creates a lot of the duplication of resources in our community is going to go down, while the theoretically, and I'm positive that this is going to happen, the quality of services will go up because we aren't duplicating it. It means the amount of resources that we can offer to the public goes further because we're not duplicating it.
Sure. To me, this makes sense. Obviously, I'm not an expert in this realm, but it makes sense to me to do as much as possible. Actually, a better way to get to this question: are there areas where coordination is not a good idea? Are there areas of services where there's going to be an intentional separation?
I'd probably say no. I think you want to coordinate most services.
Everything you can, right?
Yeah, especially if it's substance use, mental health. It's kind of the old adage, which came first, mental health or substance use? Are you treating substance use because you have a mental health issue? I mean, are you have a substance use issue because of mental health issues, or did your substance use issue cause mental health issues?
Sure.
So as far as those two, you're going to treat them, and you're wanting to coordinate. As far as the whole person, same thing. I think with physical health, mental health, and substance use play a big role into somebody's physical health as well.
Sure.
So I don't see, without a deep dive, it not being a coordinated care across the board.
Makes sense. It's interesting because this fits. There are so many different conversations happening in the state of Utah right now that this this integration we're talking about here, specifically for this Tri-County Health Department, kind of parallels a lot of the. I mean, this same type of conversation came up in a recent discussion around combating homelessness in Utah when the czar, Wayne Niederhauser, former state Senate president, was stepping down from the position. He mentioned that we've got to do better coordination for mental health services and healthcare services and drug treatment programs and housing programs. And he said, we've got to stop thinking of all these things as separate entities and separate services. They're kind of the same thing. And that's sort of a little bit of what we're getting at here, right? How do you see, this is independent of this integration, but obviously this integration is meant to set us up for success going forward. But how do you see the demands on both Bear River Health Department and Bear River Mental Health changing as the Tri-County area grows population-wise?
Yeah, I think you've seen over the last 5 years, populations have increased, our services have increased, the amount of people that we treat have increased. And I think it's reflective in the amount of employees we've hired. I think it's reflective also of the amount of programs that we now have on board to treat mental illness and substance use. When I first started Bear River Mental Health 10 years ago, we didn't have an MCOT, a mobile crisis outreach team.
Oh, really?
Now we have that to where they go out to where the crisis is actually happening. I think we'll talk about this maybe later in the program, but we have a receiving center coming on board here shortly. And we have SMR, which is a stabilization mobile team as well for youth. So a lot of programs have come on over the last 7 years to help with mental health, and that's due to the growth in population. It's due to the mental health issues that we're seeing within the population throughout Utah and throughout the United States.
I also have to assume that this integration is going to facilitate sending information and know-how upstream as well. Back to the funding discussions, a lot of times the health department using data from Bear River Mental Health, from the county, from all the other services out there in the Tri-County area. You have to say to the state legislature will say, okay, what is the need 10 years from now? And you have to say, here's kind of what we're thinking. Does this integration, I think, has to help in that planning as well, where you can more easily share information and trends in services and things like that?
Yeah, I think it gets back to, so at the health department, we on a regular basis we work with a lot of different partners, but we do what's called a community health assessment, where we gather data and we also gather input. And for as long as I've been here, which is 5 years, mental health and substance abuse have been some of the top priorities.
Sure.
There's other things, but that's always been there. And when I look at this integration, it's just natural. We cannot address the entirety of this thing. No. And even just Trevor and I's organization can't. We work with law enforcement. We work with courts. We work with other mental health providers and healthcare providers in our community to try to help the individual have the greatest chance for success, for them to be a healthy person in a thriving community. We need these partners. And sure. My personal philosophy is when we get too territorial, it's the people that we serve that lose.
Sure.
That's what happens. And so
leave that to the politicians, right? Yeah. That's their specialty.
But
I won't look at either of your faces when I say that to see so I can't be a witness to you agreeing or not.
But I think the less territorial we are and the more we're focused on how do we help individuals and families and communities to really thrive, that takes down barriers because sure. we come together around a shared common goal of we all live here. Yeah. We all want it to be a great place to live. And then it comes with when it's a great place to live, more people want to come here, like you said, and then we have to deal with the challenges that grow. But,
that's right.
But we work through those things together and we figure it out. And as long as there's growth, we're always going to have a demand for these things.
This is, honestly, it's a fascinating thing to see. And And Trevor, you mentioned the receiving center. We hope to have you back to talk about that as things continue to roll on that one. Again, this is going to be good for services in Cache Valley. This is going to be good for understanding what's happening out there, what the challenges are, and how to meet them. This integration, again, between the Bear River Health Department and Bear River Mental Health. You can read more about it. Our good friend SD at BRHD has sent along some supplemental information I've linked to on our Facebook page as far as what might change, technically, where you might go for certain services and things like that. Also, more information on both the Bear River Mental Health and Bear River Health Department websites that I've linked to on our Facebook page as well. Thanks again to Jordan and Trevor for taking some time for us today, for our listeners for being here as well. Stick around. Hour 2 of today's show right after this here on KVNU Logan.